I'm Ayush Kocher, and this is my Lab 1 for Physics 2212. So the introduction. The purpose of this lab was to prepare charged pieces of clear tape and to observe interactions between the pieces of tape and determine how much excess charge is on a piece of charged tape. The findings of the lab are that the charged tape has a positive charge. The charge of the tape was 1.17 e to the negative 9 coulombs, and the electron efficiency was 1.163 e to the 10 electrons. Models and fundamental physical principles used in this lab are Newton's second law, and we know that on Earth the gravitational force is m times g, and where g is 9.81 meters per second squared. And we use Coulomb's law, which is 1/4 pi epsilon naught, also known as k, times q1 times q2 over r squared times the distance between the charges. And we know that the charge of a proton is 1.6 e to the 19. So the assumption in this lab, we can ignore air resistance on a moving object. We can treat each piece of tape as a point charge. We can assume that each piece of tape has the same amount of charge and that the tape has no net force when it is floating or being repelled. So the procedure, the first step was to cut a 20cm piece of clear tape and to fold back one end of it in order to make a handle. And then I placed this tape on the desk, and then I cut another piece of tape of equal size and I placed it on top of the base tape, and then I pulled the tape, the upper layer of tape, off the base tape, which gave the top tape some charge. And then what I did is I tested the interactions of that tape with another tape, and then I tested the interactions of that top tape with a negatively charged pen. The second part of the procedure was to stick a U-tape on top of two objects and then put another piece of tape underneath. And then I moved the bottom piece of tape closer to the top piece of tape until there was some kind of some attraction, which is that the pieces of tape actually repelled each other. And then I measured the distance where the repelling began. The interactions as a result that were measured is that when I rubbed the pen against cotton, it made the pen negatively charged. And then when the U-tape was attracted with the pen, I did the same thing with the plastic eraser. I did the plastic eraser and the pen. The U-tape was attracted. And then when the charged pieces of tape were interacted with one another, they were repelled. And from these interactions, we know that the U-tape is positively charged. The initial values, the length of the tape is 0.2 meters, the width is 0.02 meters, the mass is 2 times 10 to the negative 3 kilograms, and the initial separation distance is 0.0025 meters. So in our lab, the system is the top piece of tape, the top piece of U-tape that is attached to the two books. The surroundings is the bottom piece of tape that was moved upwards towards the top piece of tape. And we can assume that the top piece of tape began at rest. So here's the code that I got from my glow script. So I made each piece of tape as its own particle, and then I made two functions, one to find the charge of the two particles, and then one function to find the force. And then from there, I apply those two functions, and then out of we can find the electric charge. So using my glow script code, I found that the electric charge in this situation is 1.17 e to the negative 9. And then from this number, we can find the electron efficiency by dividing the electric charge by the charge of a proton, and from that we get 1.163 e to the 10 electrons. So discussion. If electrons have a positive charge and protons have a negative charge, the experiment would not change because the like charges would still repel each other and opposite charges would still attract each other. And it is important to handle the charged tapes as low as possible because when doing this, you want to minimize the unintentional transfer of charge from one object to another. And also, when the charged tapes are touched, the tape can be worn down and affect the ability for it to be charged. Possible errors in this lab is that when measuring the separation distance, I could have incorrectly read the ruler when I was trying to measure the distance. And another possible error is that instead of actually measuring the mass of the exact tape, I used a provided expression to find that.